That day, I witnessed something so devastating, so overwhelming, that it forever changed the city of Rome and the lives of everyone caught in its grasp. Imagine the skies glowing with hellish orange, the night filled with the crackle of roaring flames and the desperate cries of families torn from their homes. The choking smoke swept into every corner, the panic as loved ones were lost in the chaos. The streets, usually vibrant with life, became mazes of fire and ash where people ran without knowing where to turn. It's hard to fathom the sheer horror, the heartbreak, and the helplessness. I'm trying to think back to when it started. It must have been around mid-July, 64 AD. It was a blisteringly hot summer night in Rome. The air is dry. The heat clings to your skin. The fire sparks to life in those busy merchant shops near the Circus Maximus, the city's heart for chariot races and trade. Now, why there? Because these shops were packed with flammable goods, the perfect kindling, and the winds blowing through the city, probably that fierce sirocco from Africa, blew the flames into a deadly monster. Can you imagine standing there and suddenly smelling smoke, the air thickening, the glow of flames flickering down the narrow alleys? Seriously, how on earth did it spread so fast? Faster than anyone could escape. The fire tore through the tightly packed wooden insulae where most Romans lived, those cramped apartment blocks that were disaster waiting to happen. People must have been terrified. Families grabbed what little they could carry, screaming to get out before the streets became walls of fire. Think of the panic, the chaos, the helplessness. 6 days, 7 nights of flamethrower fury engulfed the city. The fire didn't just consume buildings. It swallowed people's homes, their memories, their safe places. Think about the city's layout. It didn't help. The flat land near the Circus Maximus had no big open spaces to stop the fire from surging. It climbed the hills, Palatine, Caelian, like a living creature, then rushed down to lower areas, devouring everything. Temples, theaters, grand mansions, gone. 10 out of 14 districts destroyed. 2/3 of Rome in ruins. That's not just a fire. That's a city's heart ripping apart. And where was Nero when all of this was going down? Obviously, he had better things to do than worry about a little fire. Jokes aside, some people still believe he was playing music on his lyre while Rome burned to the ground. Could you imagine if that were true? Nero wasn't even in Rome. He was at his villa when the fire started, but rushed back immediately. He opened his gardens and public buildings to shelter the homeless and organized food supplies to stop starvation. Yet, people whispered as they do. The lie is more entertaining than the truth. Rumors circled that Nero started the fire himself to clear land for his golden house, the Domus Aurea. Why would people believe that? Don't get me wrong, by no means am I painting Nero as a saint. There is not enough paint in Rome to achieve that task. I'm just saying those claims are wild. But what do I know? Transparency is opaque here in Rome. I guess it's easier to blame a leader than accept such widespread disaster. Keeping with the theme of blame, the Christians. Why did Nero blame them? Guess he was feeling the heat and needed to deflect suspicion and anger away from himself. They were easy targets. They are a small, mistrusted minority. So who better to scapegoat in a crisis, right? The persecution was savage. Crucifixions, burnings, even people fed to dogs. It's chilling to think how fear and desperation can turn neighbors into monsters. Nero persecuted the Christians, claiming that the fire was divine punishment for their misdeeds. Like I said, he ain't no saint. Before the flames, Rome was a city of contrasts. The wealthy lived in stone houses with private baths, feasting luxuriously, while the masses squeezed into fire-prone wooden towers. The fire ravaged those crowded neighborhoods, turning homes to ash and lives upside down. Thousands lost everything: their shelter, their belongings, maybe even their loved ones. The air, once sweet with food and life, filled with smoke and despair. But Rome wouldn't stay in ashes forever. Nero introduced fire safety reforms: wider streets, better building materials, more space between homes. The city was rebuilt stronger, but can we ever erase the scars of such loss? Physical structures can be mended, but what about the memories, the trauma? Politically, things got darker for Nero. Before the fire, some senators tolerated him with caution. Afterward, they despised him outright. Tales of his extravagance and ruthlessness spread, and with the suspicions about the fire and his persecutions, his support crumbled. Was the fire the start of his fall? Often history shows us disasters reshape leaders and empires, so maybe. And that big question, did Nero start the fire? Some say yes, others no. Maybe it was just an accident made terrible by the city's wooden sprawl and sudden winds, and perhaps fanned by looters adding fuel. History often stays messy, doesn't it? Truth hides in shadows and eventually forgotten. It's no longer the main questions asked when people come to their own conclusions. So, the Great Fire of Rome was far more than a catastrophe. It was a human tragedy that unraveled lives, altered the city forever, and brought out fear, ambition, and cruelty. But amidst that, people survived, rebuilt, and carried on. When we look back, maybe the greatest flame isn't the one that burned the city. It's the one that still flickers in our stories, urging us to remember how people lived, loved, and endured in the fire's shadow. When I close my eyes and imagine what happened that day, it's like I'm suddenly standing in the midst of it all. The heat pressing down, the sharp sting of smoke in my throat, the crackling roar of flames swallowing everything I know. I feel the panic of families scrambling through narrow streets, the terror of losing not just homes but the people they love. The sky glows an angry orange, and night turns into a nightmare where every shadow might hide disaster. It's heartbreaking and terrifying, but also strangely alive. Like the city itself is breathing, struggling, and fighting to survive.